Hello and welcome to Culture Shark, a live stream about all things pop culture. I'm Final Monkey,
And I'm Caleb.
and here on Culture Shark, we have started a quest to find the best comic book stories. So we hope you will like, share, and subscribe our stream. We've already read Jeff Smith's Bone. We've read Avengers Under Siege and Thunderbolts, and then we found some stories we did quite like Jeff Loeb's Red Hulk.
I don't think we went into that one thinking it was going to be the best.
I had hopes. I had hopes it would be at least fun, but uh, anywho. So today, this show has been about 18 months in the making. We are
Yes.
discussing Astro City, which is by Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross, and I always forget the penciler. Hold on a second.
Oh yeah. Um, what is
It's Brent Anderson.
yeah. He does the art for God Loves Man Kills, right?
He may have. That's a good question. I don't remember. Uh,
I
but this
think.
is a story that this is a book I bought for Caleb for Christmas a year and a half ago, and we
Yeah.
just, for whatever reason or another, it just has got delayed over and over. Yes, it is the same artist.
Okay. Yeah.
God knows man kills. This is a comic book I read back in the late '90s. So
Oh, so you were there.
this is an oldie. Well, Wizard magazine hyped this up quite a bit, and so probably late '90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there. I was able to read Confessions at the library. And go, oh wow, this is incredible.
Oh, so you started with Confessions.
Well, I can't remember. It may have been Confessions. I've read. So you've got the Metro book, which is like I don't know how many issues is. We'll say 18
Uh,
issues or something,
yeah. It's volume 1, 1 through 6, and then volume 2, 1 through 12.
and then the half issue.
Yes, and the half issue.
So I've read a little bit past this, but not too much. I've read Tarnished Angel, which is the next one.
Okay.
But after that, I don't know anything past that. So that might be something we explore in the future on the show.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
before I bought this for you, had you ever heard of Astro City?
No, no. Funny thing, and it was kind of a blast from the past as I was looking for as I was researching for this. Because one thing that I do is not only will I read the books, but I'll also like you know I'll Google things to figure out like what was going on at the time, like what's the what's the context. When I typed in Astro City into images, what popped up? You know what? Let me go ahead. I'm gonna show this real quick because it actually reminded me uh, of another hobby that I have. Let's see.
So while you're
So,
doing that,
right here.
for those who don't know, Astro City
Yeah.
is about a city of superheroes.
Yes. I'm big into arcade machines, fighting games specifically, and so it's always been my dream to have an arcade machine. I've just never had the room.
Uh,
These are very famous candy cabinets. You'll see these at this point. You'll see a lot of them because these are so universal. They're so uh, well used. Like we had some arcades in the mall in Louisville that had a bunch of these. These are called candy cabs
mhm.
um, by Astro City.
Okay.
Uh, and so whenever I was typing in, and I hadn't thought about Astro City arcade cabs in probably about 5 years. So this took me back as soon as I
Nice.
typed in Astro City. So
So Astro City, the comic book, is a comic book about a city of superheroes, but it doesn't just focus on the heroes. You'll get the point of view of a citizen or reporters or villains. It's talking about everybody that lives in the city.
yeah,
And these superheroes are kind of homages to more famous heroes like Superman or Spider-Man. that sort of thing.
Yeah. So do you want to know what this like really reminded me of?
What's that?
Uh, do you remember the Batman the animated series episode, "The Man Who Killed Batman"?
Yes, where
It was
it's
with
like the
Sid.
little nerdy guy, and they think
Yeah, yeah, with
yeah,
Sid the Squid.
yeah, yeah,
Really, this really reminded me of that episode. I feel like this is something you could do for like I don't know, a Prime or Netflix or HBO Max. You could do like an anthology series, like 8 episodes, and just adapt an issue for an episode or something like that. And honestly, I don't think it would cost a lot either, because you'd probably want to focus more so on the citizen stories than the actual hero stories.
right, yeah, and also the way it reads is like you're coming in on issue like 400 of an established series or something. This city's
Yeah.
already established. There's already been storylines going on. You're just kind of thrown into the middle and just hang on. Here we go. Which is a lot like reading any comic book for the first time. Unless you're starting with issue one, you're just jumping in the middle of an established universe. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah.
So we'll kind of skip the first story. It's about Samaritan, who's kind of like Superman, very similar, but it's talking about like
Yeah.
how busy his life is.
I
Uh,
I I liked it.
uh
I definitely was interested in him counting.
yes.
Like that was
How often he actually gets to fly, because he's mostly saving the world, and how in his dreams he flies, because during the day he's so busy that he just there's not a moment of peace. He's just
uh,
constantly going.
I saw another thing that I'll do, because I've always been very upfront about this. So it's not like a comedian stealing jokes or anything like that. Um, but I've been very upfront that like I'll watch other reviews of
Hmm.
this,
Hmm.
just to kind of compare what people thought. Um, and I think it was Near Mint did a review on Metro Book One, and he called this a Watchmen is a deconstruction. This is kind of a reconstruction.
Hmm.
Um,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
and I it's almost what I want James Gunn's Superman to end up being.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. By the way, you should fire me for making the thumbnails for our show. Why was this not the thumbnail of the guy punching all the sharks?
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that.
Should totally be fired. I really like this story. This is a story about a new news reporter,
Yeah,
and
I got a,
he's
I got, a, I got a Ben Urich vibe from him.
yeah, and the new guy is looking around at the editors or the senior reporter's room of all the news stories, and he has this weird news clipping. He's like, "What's the deal with that?" And he's like, "Oh, well, that's an interesting story." So he's talking about what he's first out on the street as a new reporter. He's trying to get the big
Yeah.
story, but the other reporters keep getting to it first. And
Let me say one thing. I was
hmm
confused whenever you said the new reporter. I
hmm
got a Ben Urich vibe from Elliot Mills in his
yes,
story. That's what I
yes,
meant.
yeah, yeah. The guy who's telling the story, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so he ends up uncovering this crazy story he's a witness to, where the silver agent is fighting this cult of sharkists, or what do you want to call them, that they're sacrificing a shark to a shark god, and they're getting turned into shark men, and the what they call the honor guard shows up, which kind
Yes.
of like their Justice League. And then the old soldier shows up, which is obviously supposed to be Captain America, but he's like a he's like a time displaced soldier that only shows up like every 30 years or something. just really fun. He's witnessing all this crazy stuff, and he can't wait to get to the typewriter. He types up the story, turns to the editor, and the editor goes, "You can't prove any of this." And he's like, "But I was there. I saw it." He goes, "You got any witnesses? No. Can you talk to Aldegar? No. Well, what can you prove?" So he retypes the story, types it again. And he goes, "No, you still can't prove this. What can you prove?" So at the end, the news story just says, uh, "Dead shark found on subway track. Train hits shark. No one knows where the shark came from." That's it.
Yeah. Yep. It
It,
was it was a 5-paragraph
it
news story.
yeah, yeah. Just a lot of fun and a good lesson for reporters. You can only report facts. You can't, sensationalize,
Yeah.
which a lot of reporters do. But if you
What?
want to be a good reporter, you got to stick to the facts.
Yeah, and the reason that he hung it up in his on his wall is some people might um some people might be very disgruntled that you're sitting on the story of the century, and your editor won't let you write it, but it taught him the story. I believe it's the Astro City rocket is the name of the publication. um the Astro City rocket only reports what it can prove,
Yeah,
and like he hangs it up as a reminder and a lesson.
yeah. Really fun little story. Again, the superheroes are kind of background characters. It's more about this reporter.
Did
Is the story.
did you ever read Sam and Twitch?
I don't know if I have or not. I know they're part of the Spawn universe and they're the cops.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Sam and Twitch is actually the best Spawn ever gets. Because I think the worst part about Spawn is Spawn. um, and so Sam and Twitch is a Bendis series where Spawn is just kind of in the background, and it's Sam and Twitch. Like, it's almost like an X-Files thing.
mhm.
Which I've always said, like, if a Spawn movie really does come out, I think it should just star Sam and Twitch.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I think it'd be more interesting, story wise and your point of view characters.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's move on to the next one. I think it's a little knowledge,
Yes.
and this is about Jack in the Box, who is our Spider-Man like character. I don't know if you caught that or not. That he's our kind of our Spider-Man.
I
A little bit
didn't.
mix of Spider-Man and Creeper, I would say.
I definitely got more creeper. I also, so from another story, um, you wouldn't catch it. I got kind of an Iron Man vibe from him too.
Yeah, I
Um,
could see that because he is an inventor.
yeah, he's an
Um,
inventor, he's an engineer, and then like his arch nemesis, which we'll talk about here soon, Junkman, uh, is also an engineer, and like he creates his own suit and everything.
mhm.
Like it definitely, I got like an Iron Man, Ironmonger vibe, like Junkman was like if Justin Hammer put on a suit.
Well, if you look at the way he jumps around and uses the confetti, kind of like webs, and then he's
Oh
always
yeah.
cracking jokes.
Oh no, no. Here's the thing. You have just opened it up for me. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Uh, honestly, what I was too concerned about was the fact that I kept thinking, because his name's not Cracker Jack, Jack in the Box, but there's a character named Cracker Jack, and so I kept getting those two confused because
uh,
in Darkwing Duck, there's a villain named Quacker Jack
yeah.
who is similar to Jack in the Box.
hmm Yeah. So this is a story about what happens if a two-bit thug finds out a character's secret
Yep.
identity. And I
And
think even the pose of him where Jack in the Box takes off the mask is just like Peter Parker when I think Green Goblin finds out who he is in the
yeah,
comics.
this is the one that really made me think. Man Who Killed Batman, because it's just some nobody thug who's like concerned about everyone who's gonna be coming for him now that he knows.
Yeah, and it's like, well, what do you do with this information? At first, he just has a face, and then he figures out, oh no, this is who it is. He figures out where he lives and everything. And at first, he's like, oh, I'm gonna get rich off of this. But then the more it starts to sink in that, oh, if I open my mouth, I know people are just gonna beat it out of me or kill me once they find out. And he starts getting super paranoid because everywhere he goes, Jack in the Box is there. Jack in the Box has no clue who this guy is, but he's so paranoid that he saw him that basically he can't take anymore. And at the end, he decides, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna move out of Astro City,
Yeah.
which is it's a lot of fun and reminds me of I think it was Ultimate Spider-Man, where Kingpin sees Spider-Man without his mask on. And he's like, I have no clue who you are.
No, it made me think of that one Justice League Unlimited episode where Flash and Lex switch
Yes, yes,
bodies. It's like at least I can know who the Flash is. I have
right,
no idea who this is.
yeah.
that oh man, me and my friends we quote that a lot because it's like Lex is in the bathroom. Well, Flash as Lex is in the bathroom and is like, "Hey man, aren't you gonna wash your hands?" He's like, "No, because I'm evil." Which fun fact? Michael Rosenbaum voices the Flash, and he also played Lex in Smallville. So,
Yeah, Flash gets a lot of great quotes on that Justice League cartoon.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is just a fun little one and done. And again, establishing the city.
I mean,
And
that's what a lot of. I think this book, and I think Confessions is in the middle, but I think this book is at its best when it's the one and dones.
yeah, I think Confessions is kind of the exception to the rule. But yeah, I agree. I like the one and done quite a bit. Uh, this one is what is this one called?
Uh,
Safeguards.
yes, this one did not stick with me, honestly.
I brought it up just because I want to talk about Hangman. Because
Well,
Shat,
because
yeah,
Hangman becomes an important character later.
yeah. And keep in mind that while we're reviewing these, I have loaned out my copy of the Metro book and I don't have it back. So the middle section of these issues I have not gotten to reread recently. So it's kind of doing it from memory. Um, but this establishes Hills, which is like the occult part of town.
Hmm.
And
Which is a funny thing to say.
yes, it's like a Bardstown Road of but uh, Shadow Hill, and about how the people there have to, they have all these rituals they have to perform every night to protect themselves from the evil spirits and the vampires and whatnot. And then they have their own guardian, the Hanged Man, which is like this. He's kind of a cross between like the Spectre or Man Thing, that type of character.
Yeah, he definitely seemed more like a force of nature.
Yeah, he doesn't really. I can't. I didn't get to reread Nearness of You. Does he talk in that? I can't remember.
In this story, no.
Well, I know in this issue he doesn't talk, but I know in general if he ever talks, he usually just gives you a glance. He just kind of
He
looks at you.
he does in if I recall, he does in the other story.
Okay. All right. We'll get to that one in a minute. But this one is just talking about the differences between the city part of Astro City and Shadow Hills, um, and just how my youngest son just got back from New York, and how New York is quite different living in that compared to living in Kentucky or Texas or other places.
Yeah.
And it's just an interesting contrast.
Well, it's also super interesting because like uh I also used to kind of live up there. It was about half an hour outside of New York.
Mhm.
But I mean, we would go into the city probably 4 or 5 times a year. Um, and yeah, it's even 30 minutes outside of New York City is different than New York City.
Yeah, it's a completely different vibe. And so, what seems normal to a New Yorker or someone in the city seems strange to someone who's outside of it, even for someone who lives in the world of the occult. Then she goes, to the main city and they have their own rituals there, even though they don't call them rituals. It's just interesting contrasting the two worlds.
Hmm.
So we won't stick on this one too long, other than that is Kurt Busiek on the cover there. They pop up quite a bit in these, Kurt and Alex, and
Yeah.
as they're usually as criminals in these books,
I
and
really
Brent
do.
Anderson. So,
I really do enjoy the covers. I am a big fan of Alex Ross. One of my favorite T-shirts that I ever had. Unfortunately, it's an old one, so it smells, holes. I don't fit in anymore, what have you. But I used to have the Kingdom Come uh,
oh yeah,
T-shirt. One of my favorite T-shirts.
yeah.
That's it.
So let's see. This one, uh, I do like. This is about the character. This is Cracker Jack, right?
Yep.
He reminds me a lot of Booster Gold type character, where he's kind of a screw up, but he's so full of himself that he doesn't realize how much of a screw up he is.
He kind of for me because I can't help but it's the weirdest thing because I know these are supposed to be comparisons to actual Marvel and DC superheroes, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I can't help but compare this because I know it's rivals and contemporaries. I can't help but compare this to Watchmen or to The Boys or to Invincible, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, he reminded me if the comedian wasn't self-aware.
The comedian from Watchmen.
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of
It
see him like as a Hawkeye, also that just kind of a little bit of a
yeah.
jerk, you know. Uh, so I think this story's fun. The bad guy who they'll come up again later, the shapeshifters. They look like the space vampires from the early days of Avengers. If you look them up, they look exactly the same. The
I'm not
pointy nose and the big eyes, and
I'm not familiar with that story.
I will find a picture of them. But this one is about an alien that is doing reconnaissance, which is the name of the story, reconnaissance on the superheroes, seeing if the planet
It's worth
is
saving.
ready for invasion. But he keeps putting it off because he's kind of falling in love with the place.
Yeah, he's thinking about sparing it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and so the thing is, though, he finds out that um, there's this superhero Cracker Jack, and he's like, this guy's a loser. He's doing his reports on everybody, and he's like, yeah, this guy, he's what did I say earlier? Space vampire, space phantom. That's what they're called.
you said space vampire.
Yeah, space phantom. If I share my screen real quick, I did not mean to hit that button. If I share my screen, you'll see they look exactly the same.
It kind of looks like uh kind of kind of looks like Bruce Timm's Joker a little bit from far away.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing where they are shapeshifters and
Yeah.
they have yeah, he looks very much like this. So, um, yeah, so he's doing reconnaissance and he's keeping tabs on everybody, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna make a final decision. So he's kind of following Cracker Jack around, and he's like, yeah, he's young and foolish and brash, but so is our species. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, and you find out that a fire breaks out in the apartment, and Cracker Jack saves them, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna spare him. But then there's these old ladies that just gossip about everything, and they're just awful. Bunch of Karens in the apartment building, and because of them, the bad guys like, okay, screw it, we're invading. People suck.
Yeah.
So the Karens destroy the world, basically.
Yeah, and so like it ends with him like going back to the apartment building in ruins, and like attaches his computer to like the mainframe or whatever, and sends a signal to the rest of the armada, and that's how the story ends.
Yeah, and it just ends, and you're like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah,
And so it's kind of setting up some stuff that'll happen later
yeah.
on.
Which okay, so here's my first thing. I'm of two minds about it because I like the story that it leads to. I do like Confession,
Hmm.
but also I kind of wish that it was just left as a one-off.
Yeah, I could see that. Um, yeah, it's more interesting as a one-off, I guess. But Confession. So go ahead and bring the cover back up.
Yeah.
Um, Confession is kind of our Batman Robin story, sort of.
Yes.
Um, and while this is going on,
Which
though,
which is
there.
interesting because this was written before.
Oh, did this come out before that issue?
No, 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 no. I'm saying that Confessor and Altar Boy were written before.
I'm sorry, I'm not following. I'm.
There was a thing with Altar Boys.
Oh, 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 oh. You're talking about
This,
in
yeah,
reality.
yeah, in real life, this was written before
Oh
that
yeah,
came
yeah.
out.
You don't know, no. Yeah, this was before the scandals and stuff. I
Yeah,
don't think he would have called them those characters. Yes,
yeah,
this was before all those scandals. It was close around the same time, but yeah, this was before all that,
yeah.
which is
That
a kind of
that
an
was
unfortunate coincidence.
yeah. Like I want to say that this was probably 99, 2000. That was 2003, something like that.
Yeah. Um, so while you have this story of Batman and Robin, we'll get back to that here in a second. You've also got basically Civil War and Secret Invasion happening at the same time. If
Yes.
we put it in the Marvel tone, and they deal with it, I think, much better in this story and quicker. And it's just kind of a background thing going on, and I prefer it.
Here's the thing. I love this story because Civil War and Secret Invasion both suck. I said it. I said it. They suck.
And so it's interesting though that it's like, oh, Bendis is this visionary. He's got these ideas, and they did it before in Astro City. They
Yeah.
did all this before. Um, so not I'm not. Well, I guess I am knocking Bendis out. Yeah, I'll leave that in there.
Listen. No. Here's the thing. I already gave him Sam and Twitch.
Yeah,
We
we like
built up.
Sam and Twitch. There's stuff that we like about Bendis, and other things we're like, eh.
It just proves that Bendis is best whenever he's dealing with the lower level heroes. You give him like actual gods, and dog doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, I still can never forgive him for Guardians of the Galaxy, but anyhow. So this is the story of Altar Boy. I think his real name's Kenny.
Brian Kinney.
Yeah, and he's coming to the town, and he he wants to be a hero, and
Yeah, he's basically come to Astro City, the network,
yeah,
which
and
I thought was fun.
so basically he stops a robbery and gets noticed by the confessor, who takes him in as his sidekick, and he doesn't really know much about the confessor, and he's just this shadowy figure who only shows up at night. And there's
Yeah,
some moments where they're fighting some bad guys, and the bad guy's like, I shot you, I know I did. And he's like, no, no, you didn't, you missed. And so
the interesting thing is at this point, confession starts in issue 4,
mhm.
so we are 9 issues in. I'm fairly certain this is the first story to take place at night.
You're probably right. I think like maybe parts of stories maybe took place at night. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I mean, like, there may have been like a nighttime, like, but like the fact that this is nighttime is the point.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so a lot of this is Alter Boy is it's from his perspective, and he's putting together clues about the confessor. He's things are not adding up, and this whole time there is Shadow Hills pops up again. There's people missing in Shadow Hills.
Yeah,
I think there's murders happening.
that kind of reminded me of Cadmus a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's kind of going on in the background, and people are starting to suspect that maybe the confessor has something to do about it or something to do with it. And so here's the big spoiler. Alter Boy finally figures out the confessor is a vampire. So he's literally a Batman. He
Yeah,
he literally is. Um, and so we get his story that he was a priest and in the New World, and he got bit by somebody, I think from Shadow Hill, bit him, and he wears the cross on his chest as a penance, like that he's in constant pain because of it, as a reminder of the evil that's in him. He's a really
yeah,
cool character. I really like
yeah.
the Confessor.
So there is a there's something that I want to say, but if I say it, it would spoil something for you that I want you to watch eventually.
Okay.
Um, but it one of my favorite things. I got to be very vague about this.
Mm.
One of my favorite things could like be an origin story for confessor.
Okay.
That's really all I can say.
All right. Um, but yeah, so this is a lot of this is Alter Boy figuring this out, and it kind of puts tension in the relationship. But Alter Boy is still like, no, no, you're still my dog.
He says that.
Yeah, that's a quote from the comic.
He's from the Bardstown Road of Astro
Yeah,
City.
yeah, yeah. Um, but the people in Shadow Hill are starting to like put up protections against vampires and stuff. They're just they're really freaking out. And in the meantime, the mayor is starting to turn people against the superheroes, like saying they're a threat and all this stuff. So that's where the secret invasion angle comes in.
Yeah.
And Kenny, he realizes that they've figured it out that he's a vampire, and Confessor freaks out, and I can't remember. There's like a press conference or something they lure him to, right?
Yes. Yeah. Very, very much Civil War.
Yeah. Um, and so during the press conference, they shoot Confessor with wooden stakes, but not before he kind of unmasks the mayor that he's a alien shapeshifter. Is that right? I'm trying to
Yep.
remember. It's been years since I've read this.
Yep.
So Confessor dies on stage, and then this is kind of where the uh, the rebellion against the aliens really breaks out, and all superheroes are fighting against the aliens. And I think they're called Pegasus, or is it Eagle? I think it's Eagle. They're like kind of like shield agents. They've also been taken over by the aliens. There's a big fight against them. There's a group called, I think they're called the Crossbreeds. Is that what they're called?
Yes.
Which are basically the X-Men, but they're like biblical characters, which is really fun. Um, they all have like biblical names, and they're kind of angelic, and I think they even call them Jesus freaks at one point. So
There is one other there is one other uh group that okay, yes, it is the crossbreed. Um Quarrel. Let's see. But there is one other group that I want to mention.
is it the Irregulars?
No, no, the Guillotine.
Oh, the Guillotine.
The Guillotine, that's just a great name. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. There's some. I think they show some different superheroes, and the one in Atlanta is called the Real Thing, a reference to Coca Cola. Um,
Yeah.
there's just some fun little jokes in here, and I'm sure that most of the names of people or superheroes are references to things in the comics, much like when you read like an Alan Moore story and everything's like secretly a reference to something. I'm sure Astro City is just full of references. They're going right over my head. Um, so at the end of the story, the aliens are ran off, and we see that the confessor has returned, but it's not the original confessor. It's now Ultra Boy has taken on the role, and so everybody thinks he's a vampire. So they're all using, you know, method you would use to fight a vampire against him. Of course, they don't work and stuff. So he's taking advantage of that. So
Yeah. Which I did look this up as well. I'm a little disappointed by it. Apparently, he never comes back.
who, the confessor?
Yeah.
The OG confessor or the new one?
Neither. Yeah, neither. Like,
Well, it does say it's like 4 years later when he takes on the role. I think
yeah.
because he's like in training, so that would make sense. Um, but yeah, he's a. It's fun that this is their Batman character and their take on Batman and Robin. Just a really fun story, some really fun twists on it, and yeah, a lot of people will point to this as the best Astro City story arc. And this and the Nearness of You are usually the two that get brought up.
Yeah. That's the one that comes to mind for me. Like here's the thing. Confession was good. Um, but I and I really like it. I still think stuff where it's a one and done is where this
Book
book shines.
shines.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I like Confessions, but I don't want the whole book to be like Confessions. I don't want it all to be multi-part stories. And so, like Tarnished Angel, if we ever get to book two, it's a multi-part story, and I don't think it works as well as Confessions does.
Hmm.
So, all right. So what is next? This one, I think is Show 'em All. Is that the name of this one? Yeah.
Yep.
And this is about a villain known as Junkman who pulls off the perfect robbery and no one knows he did it. He gets away scot free. He makes all this money, and we find out that we get his whole backstory where he was a engineer and inventor who got laid off just because he was old, and he couldn't get any more work because he was old, and no one, the world just moved on without him, and he wanted that recognition.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm still valid.
There is a storyline in My Hero Academia very similar to this. I would not. You know what though? I would be surprised because this is already kind of, not as well known. Um, but there is I think it's like a, and I'm thinking not from the manga but from the show. I think it's like a 3 episode storyline um, that very much reminds me of this a lot.
So this, it eats at him. It continues to eat at him, and the heroes keep getting all the attention, and it's like the news media has moved on. They're not talking about the bank robbery anymore, and finally he starts robbing banks again because he wants to get caught. He wants them to know it was him,
Yeah.
and at the end he's captured and he's on trial, and you see he's already planning his escape, and soon they're all going to know how he pulled this off. Just a fun
Mhm.
story.
Oh yeah. I was a big fan of this one. This one, like I said, this book shines in the one and dones. Um, I don't need I don't need an entire 52 issues on Samaritan. You know, I can stand for just a single issue of an old man trying to make a name for himself.
And what's fun about this book is you will see, like, they'll just have gatherings of superheroes, and you're like, you'll see some weird character background. You're like, oh, what's that guy's story? Like there's a, I can't remember what her name is, but there's a character flying around that's literally just a Barbie doll. And you're like, why is there a Barbie doll here fighting with everybody? And I think eventually you do get her story, but it's just one of the neat things this book does.
I think that's the fun thing is like, the hope that eventually you'll get that person's story.
Yeah. Yeah, if you keep reading, eventually you'll learn about everybody in the town is the hope. So, what's next?
We have
Is it Serpent's Teeth
yeah, this is Serpent's Teeth.
and Father's Day?
Yep. And then I figure we'd end off with Nearness.
Okay. This one's kind of interesting where it's Jack in the Box is realizing, well, he goes out on patrol and his wife has something to tell him, and obviously if you read books or seen movies for it, obviously she's gonna say she's pregnant, but he leaves before she can tell him, and he runs across, I think they're Jackson and Box, I think is their names.
Yep.
And these are possible future versions of his son. One who is clearly like a saber-tooth Wolverine character, and the other is like a Cable Magog type character. And they both kind of represent scary possible futures where in both realities, Jack in the Box himself died either before they were born or when they were at a young age, and they never really knew their father. And he's horrified at what his future child could turn out to be. One of these turn out this way. There is a third son that appears that has no powers, that just researched time travel and studied all this stuff. And again, he could see the heartbreak in his eyes that he never got to know his father also. So it's very much about the types of things that firefighters or soldiers go through, this fear of what happens if I die and my child never gets to know me.
Yeah.
They didn't sign up for this life. um and along the way we also meet like a street gang called the Trouble Boys, I think is what they're called.
Yes.
And they kind of hero worship Jack in the Box. They always run around chasing him and doing flips and stuff behind him, and they're led by a guy named Roscoe. And so that's kind of part one, where he meets these two possible versions of his kid, and then he finds out that his wife is pregnant, and instead of reacting with happiness, he's terrified.
Mm-hmm.
And then part two, we get his whole story about what happened to the original Jack in the Box, which was his father, who died, and his father just died when he was 12 years old, and he never got to know his father. He never knew his father was a Jack in the Box until years later when he found the costume, and just how he felt abandoned and never knowing the truth about his father.
Yeah.
You were gonna say something? Or?
Well, I was gonna say the more, like not the more, but like retroactively, I see the Spider-Man. I see it.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look like Spider-Man. Like you want to, I see him. I'm like, oh, it's Creeper, Joker, something. You don't see it, but then when you see the way he jumps around and the confetti and the way he shoots the confetti and all that, the jokes and everything, it's like, oh yeah, this is Spider-Man. So they end up, the time traveling sons all end up disappearing, and the one that has no power says, hey, this was a one-time thing, they won't be threatening you again. but it still freaks him out. He's like, I've got to make a decision. Do I just quit being Jack in the Box? If I keep going and I die, then I'm really going to punish my son in the future, and I don't want him to turn out this way. And so we see Jack in the Box fighting a character known as Brass Monkey, and the Beastie Boys start singing about him. So we see Jack in the Box fighting Brass Monkey, but Jack in the Box is real rusty. He's like getting his butt kicked and stuff. And so Jack in the Box's wife is watching this on the news, is freaking out. But then she hears something in the other room and goes down there and realizes, oh, her husband's still here. That's not him. That's Jack in the Box. And so what has happened is he has recruited Roscoe to be the new Jack in the Box, and now he's serving as an advisor, kind of like how Bruce Wayne and Terry McGinnis do in Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
And so at the end, Jack in the Box defeats Brass Monkey, and she's like, "Is this the right decision?" He's like, "This is the best decision I could come up with." And who knows? Maybe this will, maybe the future still turns out the same. But in this way, I'm giving our son a chance to know his father, and it's kind of a hopeful future for this family. Anything you want to add?
No. I mean, I was definitely gonna add the Terry McGinnis angle, but you took the words out of my mouth.
I have seen this conversation between Peter and Mary Jane so many times about, oh, my family's, there's a threat to my family, and da 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 da. And so, yeah, clearly Peter and MJ here. All right, so the final issue we're going to talk about is the half issue. This was originally only available from Wizard Magazine. You had to mail off for it. So almost kind of like a throwaway, forgotten issue, and a lot of people say, "Oh, this is the best issue of the run, the series." So
it's honestly, it's weird that this came out in, oh man, when did this come out? Like,
it had to be like late 90s.
It's weird that this is the late 90s and it is relevant today with how we tell stories.
Yeah.
Because we are obsessed with reboots. We are obsessed with the multiverse.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a large commentary on like Crisis on Infinite Earths, those types of stories. How do those affect people on the street level when these types of events happen? So I'm gonna let you recap this one because I haven't read it recently. So I remember the gist of the story, but I don't remember all the details.
So essentially, there's a man. I'm trying to remember his name. Give me 1 second. But essentially, I remember her name. Her name is Miranda, and essentially, this man has these feelings, these memories, and he mourns this woman who never existed.
Yeah.
And
he's never met her before, but he can't get her out of his mind.
Yeah. See, Michael Tenisek is his name. Mm-hmm. And essentially, he is. It's kind of like it's when you know there's something missing, but you can't place it, and he is. I think we're. Yeah, we're about 50 minutes in. No, I won't exactly say it. He is driven to the brink of taking his own life. Mm-hmm. And so, as he's about to do that, that's when the Hanged Man shows up. This is where I'm like, oh yeah, he's like the Spectre. Mm-hmm. And so he said that there was a battle between there was this big cataclysmic battle that happened that caused that destroyed the timeline, and whenever they put everything back together, it caused his wife Miranda to be omitted from the new universe.
Hmm.
And it's so interesting because it's kind of, honestly, this, excuse me, this kind of reminded me of Heroes,
Hmm.
in a way, because it's the butterfly effect. All that happened was a superhero called Air Ace first battled the Barnstormers on a Sunday. It was supposed to be Monday. And because when they put the timeline back to get together, but they messed up that a battle happened on Sunday instead of Monday. Um, Miranda's grandparents never met,
Yep.
and so she was never born.
Yep.
Um, and so having and because they were so in love, apparently this happens a lot, but a lot of people just end up forgetting. But because the love between Michael and Miranda was so strong, he still remembers her, um, and his grief has been causing extra dimensional threats to break through. And so Hanged Man uh, has come to relieve Michael of his grief.
Yeah.
And he says, I can take the pain away. I can make sure that you never remember her. And he says, now that he knows that he's not crazy, that she actually existed, I don't want to forget her.
Yeah.
And so he chooses not to. And then Hangman says, that is what everyone else chooses. Because apparently this does happen a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, that there are people with strong bonds, and they have all chosen to remember people who no longer exist. Um, so yeah, it is a very interesting commentary on grief. I have looked into this. Apparently, Michael Tenisick actually comes back. I pulled it up right here. In 2018, Busick revisited Michael Tenisick in a 3-issue arc depicting him as a founder of a support group, of which, as he learns, has resulted in the superhero community showing their gratitude by secretly covering any and all expenses. So he has put together a support group for people who have loved ones that were lost in cataclysmic timeline events.
It's so cool. It's one of the things that gets frustrating about when you're watching TV shows or reading books, where it's like they wrap something up and then they just move on. It's like, wait, people should be really affected by this. How are you just moving on so fast, or you're not really dwelling? There's more story here, and you're just skipping past
Yep, I'm looking at you, Rousseau brothers.
it.
Um, I got to be honest. That's the biggest problem with Infinity War and Endgame is the fact that we never got stories in between.
There should have been a third movie, a movie in between, but
Yeah. Well, and I
alas.
and I don't. You know what? Here's the thing. It didn't have to be an Avengers movie because I don't think it deserves to be an Avengers movie. But it could have been like. Honestly, I think they made a mistake snapping Spider-Man, um, because that could have been a Spider-Man movie.
I was thinking that you should have done a Ronin movie with Hawkeye.
True. You know what? Yeah, I take that back. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that should have been your middle movie, but oh well. But let's just talk about a little bit. Kurt Busiek is a great writer that does not get enough credits. We've now read two of his stories. We've read Thunderbolts and Astro City, and he's the man.
Yeah.
He's a great writer, and he you can tell he really loves and appreciates the superhero comic book world, the tropes and everything.
Yep. I've heard about this Marvels thing. What is that?
Have you never read Marvels?
I don't think I. It kind of
Oh,
sounds familiar.
Caleb. Okay, hold on.
I'm a DC guy. Come on.
Let's see, Marvels, because that's the one that's painted by Alex Ross, right? That's the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole book is painted by Alex Ross, and it's about. Let me pull up the Wikipedia article because I haven't read it in years. It's been a long time. It's about an everyman character, news photographer Phil Sheldon, and it's all the beginning of the Marvel universe through his eyes. So it's him taking pictures of everything that's happening and living through these moments of the Marvel universe
Mm.
coming to be.
So it actually is Marvel.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I'll share the Wikipedia page. But yeah, it's him like seeing the coming of Galacticus or Spider-Man versus Green Goblin, those types of things through his eyes. It's like it's the story of him, but those things are happening in the background. Uh, really interesting. I think I let you borrow a book that's kind of additional stories in that universe because I wanted you
Yes.
to. Because there's a book by Warren Ellis called Ruins that's the opposite
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah. You did lend me that.
Yeah. So, but this was a famous book, and this was in 1994. So this is right before, I guess, Astro City, or right around the time Astro City was starting. Um, so I think Kurt probably did this and then went on to do Astro City. So it's a good book, if I recall. It's been a while since I've read it though.
Yeah. Most I know about Busick, before all this was his Iron Man and Superman,
Hmm.
which
Well,
are both great.
he had an Avengers run around time Thunder Bolts started. So um,
I don't know what I'll have to look back and see what Superman story we had planned. We may want to read Secret Identity.
is Secret the Identity the one about? No, I'm thinking of something else. I was thinking of the one with elongated man's wife and all that. That's Identity Crisis, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's Identity Crisis.
Brad Metzler or whatever his name is.
Yeah, yeah. Brad Meltzer.
Yeah.
But no, no, no. So Secret Identity is a Superman story,
Oh,
where Clark Kent like lives in a world of superheroes. Well, not he lives in a world of like where superheroes are only in comics, and then he suddenly gains the powers of Superman.
gotcha, gotcha. So I think that's gonna wrap up Astro City. We'll probably make this a yearly tradition of revisiting this book. There's six books, I believe, covering the whole series so far.
Is he
I
still
know
writing this?
I know he's had a lot of illnesses. I think it's wrapped for right now, but he's not really out future volumes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know that one of them covers the Dark Ages, which is a story of Silver Agent or whatever that they keep alluding to.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw something about like Astro City, the Dark Age, and I was like, this seems kind of counterintuitive to what this is. So like,
I,
what
I've
kind of is that?
I know every time they bring up the Silver Agent, people are like, "Oh yeah, that guy, he's the tarnished hero." We don't talk about that. So I think it's fine telling that story. I know it's not a very popular Astro City story. I think it was too dark for Astro City,
I've
but
seen covers. It seems like it.
I think it's comic books kind of went through their dark phase in the '80s and stuff. I think it's kind of his take on that. So, uh, but I've never read it, so I don't know that for a fact.
Silver Agent kind of looks like Peacemaker.
Yeah, or who's the guy um, that was in Young Justice? I've seen him
Guardian.
around Guardian. Yeah, he kind of looks like him. Um, But yeah, so we'll revisit Astro City sometime in the future. But next week on the show, we're gonna do one of our coming attraction shows where we look at the upcoming movies for the summer, talk about which ones we're interested in seeing, which ones are just odd,
Yeah.
and so that show's always a lot of fun. So we'll be doing that next week, and then after that, are we doing another comic show, or we get into Keanu Reeves month?
Keanu Reeves month.
Okay, the list
Yeah.
just says John Wick. Remind me what that is. Are we watching all the John Wick movies? I've seen the first two.
If you're able to watch the other two, I'd definitely like to talk about all four of them. Because
Okay.
like that's there's definitely not like it's not like watching four movies and it's like, oh man, this is gonna be a 4 hour show. Like it's John Wick. So
Yeah, and I don't have to really watch anything for the coming attraction show, so I can watch that one
yeah,
this week. So
yeah. But like I definitely like like John Wick 4 for sure is the greatest modern action movie of all time.
mhm.
Uh it may be the greatest action movie of all time. I don't I don't know. But I mean it's definitely up there. So I think it'll be an interesting one. But we'll be doing that. We'll be doing uh I think at one point I think we were gonna do Berserk, but Berserk is kind of hard to get a hold of.
Yeah,
And then you said you've never seen Constantine.
Constantine and Scanner Darkly is for June. So we're
Yeah.
taking a little bit break from comic books the rest of June, but it'll be back in July because Silver Surfer, not Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four and Superman will be coming out. So we'll be talking a lot Fantastic Four and Superman in
Yeah,
July.
definitely.
So, but until then, I've been Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
We'll catch you next time in the Shark Pond.
See ya.